Welcome to Media Beat. I'm Neil Vidyarthi, the editor of Social Times, and I'm here with Mark Coatney, who is the media evangelist for Tumblr. And we're going to talk a little bit about social media and some of the new jobs that it's created. Do you see some of that at Tumblr?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that is really encouraging, just for the future of journalism and things like that, is even though the kind of traditional, daily newspaper jobs are kind of shrinking, I think there are new ways that news orgs are kind of figuring out ways to use these tools.
Right.
Where there are jobs that are more around the idea of engaging community. One thing that's really different about the web as opposed to traditional kind of broadcast print model is that once the story goes up, that's not the end of your duty.
Right.
Like there's handling commenters and there's answering questions and there's all these kind of things beyond just the actual reporting. And so I think good organizations are realizing that, and they're either having people who are tasked with just doing that, kind of managing those communities, or expanding the duties of their existing staff to make sure that what also they do is pay attention to their readers. And I think there's a real future in people just kind of figuring out more about like dealing with audience as well as just reporting.
So now, you do work in the media evangelist space. Is journalism something that is a focus of Tumblr? Are you really trying to empower the next generation of journalists?
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely. I mean, Tumblr is a very big place, and we have lots of different kinds of users. Right. But journalism has always been one thing that we've really been particularly interested in because we think it's a good platform for journalism. Sharing information is probably the key value of journalism, right? And so it is a way to quickly empower people to do good journalism at a very free, very low cost.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's been a real point of emphasis for us since they've hired me 8 months ago.
That's good. So Tumblr has been exploding, and I mean we see it everywhere. It's in the cultural consciousness. How has the growth been in terms of traffic?
It's been amazing. So in the 8 months since I've been on board, I think when I came, we were doing about 800 million page views a month. Right now, we're doing about 5.3 billion. When I came on, there were about 4.5 million Tumblr blogs, and now there's 16 million. So it's been really encouraging and really, again, gratifying. Also because, the more people are on Tumblr, the more valuable Tumblr is to the people on Tumblr, the bigger the network and all this stuff. So that's really been great to see.
So one of the great things about Tumblr is the way that you can discover new Tumblrs, and there's a lot of different experiments you guys have done over the time. How do people generally find a new Tumblr page? I
mean, that's one of the big challenges for us, because unlike, say, Facebook or something like that, where it's really a network of your friends, I mean, the best use of Tumblr, the coolest use of Tumblr is finding people that you don't even know, or that are really good. And so we've tried different experiments around that. Right now, one thing that we're doing is these things we call curated tag pages, where we actually have people who are Tumblr users that we think are particularly good in a particular subject area, say like news or fashion or basketball or whatever. Basically go through every day and like just kind of pluck the particular Tumblr posts they think are particularly interesting and collect them in a single space. Previously a lot of discovery things that we did were basically like, here's a good blog to follow.
Right.
But we didn't give you any indication of why, or what this does is say like, oh, here's an interesting post. You might want to follow this person because they make interesting posts. And so the idea is to really surface the content. Where I think sometimes Twitter was really a race to like who could get the most followers or have them, find the most things. Tumblr is really, we try to emphasize more quality. If you're only following 10 people, if they're 10 really great people, then that's great, and that's where we kind of stand.
That's cool. Yeah. So over the last kind of year then, as this has grown and as you got all these different new Tumblrs, you got the radar, are there any kind of standout blogs where it was just, or even moments where it was just a big surprise for you guys? There
are all sorts of just random things. One thing that I love is this kind of emergence, which I really think is of Tumblr, is the kind of animated GIF, thing, which is such a an old internet thing. I mean, people were doing those 15 years ago on the web, but like I love that there's just so many creative Tumblr people now who come up with like amazing ways to do this. Now you see this things like mobile apps like 3 frames where they kind of on the fly can create animated GIFs. Tumblr is full of that kind of stuff. So like as it's just kind of an almost Tumblr native art form, I love that. I mean, I love all the media conversation on Tumblr, but there's some that I think have done a particularly good job. I mean, I think GQ's Tumblr has been amazing and been very kind of personal and voice-driven, which I think is really great. Vogue has got like, just tens of thousands of followers because they're Vogue and everybody wants to follow Vogue. Although I wish they'd be a little bitchier, I wish they'd be a little bit more like, you're not worthy of following us kind of thing, but they're nicer than I would like them to be. But, maybe that's just my own feeling about Vogue. But there's so many good people out there.
Right, that's funny. Especially when earlier you were talking about the social system, right? It's like one-to-one comment, but you want Vogue though.
I want Vogue to be like
you pay to comment.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, maybe impress us, and that, exactly.
That's cool. You mentioned earlier about the sharing of pictures, and it's so funny. That's been there forever, and I think for me, the personal appeal for Tumblr has been something like that. There are all these things I can do now that I've maybe been doing before. I can do much easier now.
Yeah.
So congratulations. I mean, the site's doing fantastic. It's been really great talking to you.
You too.
And that was Media Beat. Thanks.